I think it's probably time we should make a start. So if I could have everyone's attention, please. Can you hear? Good morning, everyone. There are plenty of seats still, or not plenty, but there are some seats still over here if anyone would like a seat. So good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Sarah Al-Hamphy. I'm Head of AI and Machine Learning at Innovate UK, and I'm going to be your compere for this morning's session. So we're very excited to be here for the launch of BridgeAI, Innovate UK's new programme, which you'll be hearing about a lot today. And it's great to see the huge levels of interest, both here in the room, but also for those of you who are watching on our YouTube channel. So before we begin, I need to cover the obligatory housekeeping information. So firstly, there is no fire alarm test scheduled for today. So if you hear a fire alarm bell, that means it's real and we need to evacuate the building. The nearest exit is outside this room, which is opposite the double doors. Our assembly point is Trinity Square Gardens, which is back towards Tower Hill Underground. Toilets, if you haven't already found them, they're all on this floor. The ladies are back next to the cloakroom and the gents are just a little bit further down. There is a Wi-Fi code. If you haven't seen it on the tables dotted around, it is AMSQ, all capitals, followed by 12345. So you'll be able to connect to the Wi-Fi. And then finally, this QR code is your key to information about today. So if you scan it, that will give you both today's programme and also floor plan information, which you will need for this afternoon when we go into the breakout rooms, because that will tell you how to get to the breakout room of your choice. Otherwise, you might be subjected to something you don't want to see. So I would encourage you to scan this now. I'll leave it there for a few seconds so people have plenty of time, and we might be able to flash it up before lunch as well. So finally, the last thing to say in the housekeeping is that the whole day is being recorded. So we are hybrid till lunchtime, but then this afternoon sessions will all be recorded, and those will be shared at a later date. So if you're watching online and you want to see the afternoon sessions, or if you are here and you just want to watch them back because you enjoyed it so much, then you will be able to do that. So to kick off today's event, I'm delighted to say that we actually have a video from Viscount Cambrose. So Viscount Cambrose is the Parliamentary Under-Secretary for State in the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. He was appointed last month and is responsible for all DSIT business in the Lords, intellectual property, cyber, and crucially, artificial intelligence. So could we please go ahead and play the video?
Hello and welcome to the launch of BridgeAI, a fantastic new government investment to empower UK businesses in this critical technology. I'm Jonathan Camrose, the Minister responsible for AI in the new Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. I'm really sorry I can't be with you today, but I wanted to say a few words about the government's priorities and how exciting it is to see a specific programme aimed at driving AI adoption across the economy, including for sectors that have so much to gain from using AI to boost productivity and growth, but are yet to fully seize the new opportunities that the technology presents. BridgeAI is a vital £100 million investment for the UK's AI future and innovation leadership. It will transform business operations and the lives of UK citizens, ensuring the UK stays at the forefront of AI innovation and positions itself as a global superpower in AI. By stimulating the adoption of AI technologies and bridging the gap between AI adopters and developers, this programme can help increase UK productivity and create new opportunities for businesses, jobs and economic growth. BridgeAI's mission is to empower UK businesses operating in low AI maturity sectors, including agriculture, construction, creative industries and transport, to adopt AI through multi-million pound funding and support. And we're investing in this programme because we believe that while so many talk about the challenges to the world of work, AI has the potential to support, enhance and amplify the efforts of our fantastic UK businesses. BridgeAI is going to enable businesses to fully realise AI's potential, and therefore their own too, resulting in increased productivity, efficiency and competitiveness. By offering a clear and transparent pathway to support the early consideration of ethical and safety concerns, BridgeAI empowers businesses to adopt AI solutions with confidence while minimizing potential risks. I'm also pleased that the programme will provide funding and support for training and upskilling in AI, improving the capabilities and skills of businesses in priority sectors, boosting their competitiveness and growth, and building upon other government investments such as the AI and Data Science Conversion Course Scholarship Programme. So thank you all for attending today, and I wish you all every success.
Brilliant, and thank you to the Minister for his support, and we hope to be able to see him at a BridgeAI event sometime soon to show him the fabulous output that we expect from you all as part of the programme. So our next speaker is Will Drury, who's Interim Executive Director for Digital and Technologies at Innovate UK. And Will's going to expand more on the excellent scene setting that the Minister did and give you some more context to the programme as to why it is so vital to the UK. At Innovate UK, Will covers a range of technologies and industries, from quantum, semiconductors, AI, future telecoms and creative industries, to name just a few. Will joined UKRI as a challenge director for driving the electric revolution, which is a role that he continues to hold, and he joined in January 2020. Previously, he worked as engineering and environmental consultancy Ricardo, where he was global technology expert for power electronics. But prior to this, he led the engineering delivery team for electric drives at Ricardo, having previously worked at a micro startup company in the renewable energy sector. Will holds a PhD in electrical engineering, is a chartered engineer, fellow of the IET, and a senior member of the IEEE. Will is also a visiting professor at Strathclyde University. So please join me in welcoming Will to the stage.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic to be here, and thank you, Sarah, for doing the biography, because I'm quite happy to stand up and talk. I don't like talking about myself, so that's brilliant. And as I was asked to come and talk about AI, I thought, what better way to get my speech than pop it into ChatGPT and see what pops out the other end. The opening line, therefore, of the speech is, suggest you open with a joke about how the speech was not written by ChatGPT. So there we go. Anyway, I've a much more receptive audience, I have to say, than one I'm normally used to in some of the other areas of engineering I speak to. So thank you very much. I will not inflict too many jokes further through this talk on you. As Sarah said, I'm the Exec Director for Digital and Technologies at Innovate, so we are absolutely delighted to be able to deliver this programme and lead on this delivery. It's exciting, it's a significant investment, and it's there, as the Minister has said, to accelerate AI and machine learning and the adoption of that. How do we get the uptake to increase? How do we get the acceptance? It's not just the technology element of it. How do we get people to accept this growth in an exciting and advancing area? The overall mission from Innovate is obviously to increase productivity, to create more economic growth, look at jobs, look at skills, grow what we're able to offer from the UK businesses. The programme, the Minister has said, aligned to our national AI strategy. It builds on Innovate UK's plan for action, our vision of what the future economic strengths and important areas within the country are. And already that adoption into the sectors mentioned, agri-tech, creative industries, really exciting opportunities there. Construction and transport. We've seen developments in transport, whether it is through autonomous vehicles, whether it is through the drive to net zero. How's AI going to play in that continual drive towards the net zero goals within the transport sector? And that links across into many other opportunities. But it's the low adoption. How do we increase that adoption through our industries. That's what this programme's seeking to address. We want to support the developers, create easy to use, easily accessible and easy to integrate solutions. We want to give the businesses the confidence to invest. We back risky things. We back activities that have a gap to allow adoption, but that adoption and diffusion into products and services that will deliver value to the UK. It's key that we unlock this, that we have more accessible, more sustainable, more affordable approaches using AI across our industry. And this BridgeAI represents that significant investment in what we're doing. By collaborating with partners, and I'm going to labour a little bit on this, on our opening slide as you came in, it's not just Innovate UK and we're here to do this. This programme, this activity has come on the back of years of hard work from a wide number of people. We saw at the beginning there was specific mentions to the Alan Turing Institute, STFC, Innovate, KTN, Digital Catapult, who have been providing a focus for this, but it's also the industry need that is coming in. This is industry-driven. How do we grow that? So it is a community effort over years of planning. And I thank you all that have been involved in getting us to this stage for your input and your continued support as we move from the planning phase now into what is going to be a hugely exciting delivery phase of this programme. As we accelerate that adoption, the collaborative approach is going to be critical. This is building on the work, excuse me, the work that was done in the original shaping of a response to what was DCMS activity, evidence from Alan Turing Institute, and other well-established literature shows this is a multifaceted challenge we are facing. And as an engineer, how exciting is it to be at the forefront of delivering and developing solutions that are going to make a difference? The difference that we can make is huge, and it is through collaboration, through working together. We've got this far. Let's not stop now. My big plea, let's keep that collaboration. Let's keep looking at how we work together. Let's use the connections you make today, the people who present both here and in your breakout sessions this afternoon, to drive that forward. It would not be a talk I've given for years now without touching on talent and skills. People, you, are at the heart of this. There is no hiding the shortage of high-skilled people, of skilled people to deliver across a wide range of technologies, and AI is no different. And that's why in BridgeAI, we are pleased to be looking at how we upskill workforce and how we grow the skills in this important space that is here now and is going to be here in the future. When I did my degree and looking at what do you want to do for a job, this wasn't even on the radar. This is one of those jobs. Everyone says the job your children might do might not exist now. This didn't when I was growing up and looking at what to do. Our strategic partners with the Digital Catapult, Hartree Centre, STFC, and the Alan Turing Institute are there to allow access and availability of business expertise, facilities, and the aim is there to kickstart and grow the SME community in this adoption of technology. As well as that, through the Innovate UK, through Innovate UK KTN, who have put on a fantastic event for us today alongside Sarah's team. We're also there to support the networking part. Things like this going forward that are more specific to what you want. And I have to say, and I'm sure I will conclude with it, but thank you once again to those partners. We are not just going to provide funding. Of course we're providing funding. There's a significant amount of funding, but it's that support, that networking, that different streams of more specific activity, which will be covered today, that are going to allow this large intervention to make a cohesive benefit to business, society, and the UK. And as we go through that, we're looking forward to hearing more. And I'm really looking forward to the session shortly, which you'll have seen from the programme. You couldn't scan the programme and then leave before I spoke, so that's well organised, Sarah. But we've got the Meet the Partners session to hear a little bit more. And through the engagement with BridgeAI, we've got 6 clear aims. We want to increase the number of AI solutions and the number of AI developers working in industries that are lagging in AI adoption. That should look to increase productivity and availability. Access the skills that are a diverse range. How do we know what we're not accessing? Are there people out there that we don't know, without getting into too many of the Donald Rumsfeld style statements? But how do we get more people excited and engaged? We want to increase the growth via networking with adopters, increasing the number of AI solutions developed. It's got to be sustainable. Whatever we do has to allow for sustainable growth. That is what we're looking at with the end user-centric AI activities we're doing. We want to help adopters understand when to adopt, but importantly, when not to. So it's not one answer for everyone. And we also are going to look there at the impartial access to the likes of our world-class science research base through the academic area. And finally, we're looking at the growth of the economic outputs from this. Really important that this is there to drive growth. This is there to support businesses becoming more, and hopefully support businesses becoming more together. The pie is very large. How do we all play into that collectively? I would strongly encourage anyone, if you're here, if you're online, engage with us. Talk to the teams, talk to the partners. Let's continue the conversations beyond today. If you're here, join the conversations online and get in touch with us as we drive the AI ecosystem to grow in innovation and competitiveness. I am really looking forward to hearing more about what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it, how you see the adoption of this. And it really does provide a unique opportunity for businesses and organisations to leverage AI and accelerate growth. I promised I'd finish with it. Thank you to the partners once more, and let us please continue to collaborate, to talk about what we want to do, work together, and be happy to say, hey, this is the bit that's really causing me a problem. How can we, are there people that can, and continue to collaborate, to innovate and grow what we're doing in this exciting space. So you've heard enough from me, and I will let you now get on to the exciting part of the day. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Will. And as Will said, we are going to be shortly hearing about the specific interventions that will be part of the BridgeAI programme, and which is where you will be able to get involved, and we encourage you to do so. But before we do that, we're going to try and get our creative juices flowing with what the state of the art is and what's possible with AI. So we have a fabulous speaker to join us. Giacomo Corbo is co-founder and co-CEO of PhysicsX. He's a former partner at McKinsey and Company and the outgoing chief scientist of Quantum Black, an AI engineering services company with a heritage in Formula One that has become the leading AI implementation partner for large enterprises globally and the AI arm of McKinsey and Company since its acquisition in 2016. Giacomo is an engineer with both a PhD in computer science and a master's in applied statistics from Harvard University, a bachelor in electrical engineering from McGill University. He also was a senior fellow at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania and the Canada Research Chair of Information Management at the University of Ottawa. So just to let you all know as well, there will be a Q&A after Giacomo's session. So if you're watching online, please ensure that you do submit your questions into the chat, and we will also have roving mics going around the room. So Giacomo, please join us on stage.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Will, Innovate UK, Nico Gornion at the Alan Turing Institute for the invitation to speak today. So, given the introduction, both by the Minister, by Will, a lot of BridgeAI is focused on low capability sectors on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm going to try to paint a very optimistic picture about, how low the bar is, or how low the hurdle is to adoption and consumption of AI. So a lot of what I'll be talking about today centers on some of the substantial changes to how those kinds of software systems, AI software systems, are implemented, and the implications that that has for adoption across all sectors, including low capability sectors. A word about PhysicsX. Together with Robin, who's here today, incidentally, I'm a co-founder and co-CEO. What we're focused on is very much trying to build high-fidelity physics emulators and using that to rethink how a lot of engineering is done, a lot of how we think of controlling machines in production, process manufacturing, discrete manufacturing context is done. So some of that is relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. I'll show a few very specific examples, but I'll try to be very broad in terms of how I think about building this technology. So this is something that's been true for very many years, which is that data and data products are a key facet of building a competitive advantage. And as much as that has been true, and it's increasingly the case that software is very central to that competitive advantage, how exactly that software is composed is something that is very much changed how companies, how organizations compete in this area. Over the course of my career, over the course of the last maybe 14 years or so, from my time in Formula One, from my time Quantum Black, and pre and post the acquisition to McKinsey and its scale up, I've seen a number of things change in terms of how we think about building data products, right, and consuming data within organizations at large enterprise scale. We've gone from a place where you needed very specific software expertise in very specific appliances, in very specific tooling, to to where we are today, perhaps, where a lot of that is much more fungible. We have much more end-to-end development. Teams are much smaller, all of which is helping companies across a broad swathe of sectors participate in this trend. So, maybe in the first place, what has driven a lot of the advances that we see in AI, and also some of the changes that we see in how these software systems are instantiated. One, it's at the level of how data is collected and the amount of data that is ultimately generated. Two, it's at the level of chips. Ultimately enabling a lot of the methodological advances to happen you know, at a much greater scale, and for that to, you know, for the much larger algorithms to operate, you know, cost effectively, compute effectively. And three, maybe it's also at the level of cloud. When we think about the requisite infrastructure, especially today, that is, you know, very much enabled by cloud, and a lot of the ancillary tooling for these software systems made provisioned through cloud. So, you know, we're in a world here, maybe where we're talking about some of the, you know, pretty amazing capabilities that AI allows. You know, some of the examples given here, you know, and the pace of which that continues to evolve is pretty amazing. But I mean, altogether, you know, the part that I want to dwell on here is maybe is three like important messages. Like, one is at the level of how value is generated, how value is created. Like, two is maybe at the level of, you know, how we see the pace accelerating, and some of the changes that are ultimately making AI much more consumable. And three, that ultimately adoption is very much a leadership challenge more than anything else. You know, now that a lot of the complexities at the level of, you know, the technical complexities have been resolved or are being democratized much more, you know, what are we left with in terms of the important barriers or hurdles to adoption? And I'll argue that a lot of that centers on leadership. So this is from, you know, a McKinsey survey. A lot of this basically shows that across a number of different areas, a number of different sectors, and also within a number of different domains, we're seeing, you know, value generated from AI. So these are, you know, all of which is to say that this isn't sector specific. This is something that's happening very broadly and at some scale. You know, maybe a couple of examples from my time at Quantum Black. A lot of what we've been doing, you know, within Quantum Black is very much following very similar patterns of development across a pretty broad set of industries and domains. And the reason we've been able to do that is, and again, to the extent that that was true some time ago, that is increasingly true today, which is that the patterns of development are highly consistent. We're talking about, you know, building data pipelines, connecting into systems in very similar ways. We're talking about, you know, creating features. We're talking about using the same kinds of model formalisms, the same kind of model frameworks. You know, these are very horizontal models, and they tend to work, you know, across a broad set of situations. Maybe the last point to say here is that when we think about doing this at some scale within an enterprise, a lot of the implementing at scale hinges on the marginal efficiencies had from moving from one implementation in one domain to another. And so there are important synergies that, you know, organizations should take into account. Like, just think at the level of, you know, the complexity of integrating with a certain number of data systems and the reuse in one domain and then a next domain and a domain after that. So there's the marginal effort to moving into another domain to, you know, shipping that next model comes down over time. And that's true across a broad set of organizations. Maybe the other point that I'll say is that a lot of the value is very much tied to solving a prediction problem rather than end-to-end automation. We're here thinking about, you know, triage. We're thinking about the value that comes from coming up with some kind of shortlist, whether it's a ranking of customers by lifetime value, or it's having a shortlist of people who are likely to churn, or, you know, in a natural resources sector, it might be, you know, identifying out-of-stock parts, or identifying machinery and specific components that are at risk or susceptible to failure, or identifying, a cohort of people who are, workers on a given shift who are likely to have a health and safety incident. So all of it is really about, trying to solve some kind of prediction problem with a little bit more exactitude, with a little bit more precision in a more timely way. And that is a lot of the value of enterprise ML. So it doesn't necessarily, or until recently, a lot of organizations have been able to have, get at a lot of value without necessarily having to do any kind of end-to-end decision making or end-to-end automation. Maybe, in the world of physics, which is what PhysicsX is focused on, it's a slightly different pattern that we're following. So I mentioned that we're focused on building high fidelity approximations of physics, and then after that we're trying to get into optimization on top of that. And maybe to show a couple of examples, and I've picked two very timely examples. Some of you, maybe last Thursday, saw Starship take off for about 3 minutes or so and then blow up. But building this incredible rocket with 33 Raptor engines, each of these engines is made by a metal additive manufacturing process. And that additive manufacturing process hinges on having a near perfect argon gas curtain. And that argon gas curtain, if you think about it, what it provides, on the one hand, it's providing cooling for an 8 kilowatt laser that's printing the engine. It's also evacuating the soot and providing a clear path to the laser. And it has to do this for the entire time of the print without interruption, which is 3 weeks. And so, one of the things that we worked on is the argon gas, a specific component for the argon gas management system. And the way that, doing that kind of geometric or component optimization hinges on being able to do numerical simulation and blending that with deep optimization across a broad set of performance parameters. Another example, and this one's timely in the sense that for the last year we've been working on the design of an artificial heart, and it's just gone through in-sheep clinical trials. And what you're looking at on the page here are steady state flow predictions, the top part being pressure field predictions, the bottom here being one of the measures of blood damage. And on the left-hand side, you've got the ground truth, which is really given by the high fidelity numerical simulation, the CFD. And on the right-hand side, you have the prediction. And the prediction here is arrived at through a deep learning model, one that completely obviates the need to go to the numerical simulation. And what that buys you ultimately is a way to you've now substituted the numerical simulation, which is expensive, for something which is, accelerated by a factor of, about 10 to the 4, 10 to the 5, which now allows you to, move beyond parametric in terms of how we think about designing the pump here. What you're looking at here is, the optimized design is on the right-hand side, and basically, like, we're looking for no stagnation, and so you want these particles to be evacuated, to be cleared from the picture as quickly as possible. So this is a measure of optimization. The point here is that just a few years ago, being able to emulate physics with machine learning was not possible. At least, not for nonlinear physics, very complex applications, so complex geometries. And so we're in a world now where that is possible, but how that's possible and how that's implemented in practice is something that we'll touch on next. So, maybe the point here is that as much as as much as software is eating the world generally, software is also eating into how we think about machine learning. And by the same token, machine learning is also eating into software, right? And so some of you might be familiar with GitHub Copilot. That's a formal we'll talk about, and something that's more at the level of generative and software 3.0. But since 2018 or so, Andrew Karpathy, who was the head of AI at Tesla, coined this idea of software 2.0, which is roughly that the ways in which we think about implementing any kind of complex software system is moving to away from explicit instructions. So think at the level of some kind of procedural program has a lot of for loops and if conditions, every one of those loops being programmed by someone, to things that are sitting in models. And the implications for that is that a lot of the programming, how I arrive at a specific feature, some functionality, is happening by stochastic gradient descent, right? So it's hyperparameter tuning, and what we're describing here is a version of that, in that more and more of how we think about building this complex functionality doesn't necessarily hinge on, one, a lot of code, but two, a lot of low-level code. Doesn't necessarily require anyone to know a great deal about how these mathematical formalisms and these algorithms actually work. A lot of the implementation is happening at a level of abstraction where it is almost pure software engineering. So I want to drive the home point, the point on this, via a fantastic example from a few years ago, and at Quantum Black, and this is work that we did with Formula One management, and this is basically trying to position, it was a specific routine, a specific algorithm in order that would position the car in 3 dimensions on the track to a very, very high level of precision. So it's what you're trying to predict is the exact placement of the car at very low fidelity. And you want to do that in ways that are, agnostic to the camera angle, for example. So that's the specific application. And all I want to, talk you through is, how subsequent versions of this were implemented. So a software 1.0 implementation really required, a great deal of code complexity. And a lot of this basically was a geometric solution to how we ultimately solved this problem. Fast forward a couple of years, and we moved into designing a custom convolutional neural network in order to be able to tackle the very same problem. And I won't go into the details of that, but if you look at it at the level of the number of people months, or for that matter, the size of the code base associated with that, you can see, very substantial savings, and, we haven't lost anything in the way of performance, really. And the last thing to say is that actually we're able to move and to port that implementation to a pre-trained CNN, one that had never seen a Formula One race, didn't know anything, but had seen many other categories of image. And this is something that only required a little bit of incremental fine-tuning. And so we basically get the same functionality for roughly 2,000 lines of code, 1 person month, so of implementation time, and that's that's the trajectory for not just this specific problem, but for how machine learning systems are implemented generally. There are a number, for those, in the room, but also on video. There's a few references here that speak to this paradigm in a number of other contexts. Maybe the one that I would call out the most is Google's paper on migrating a substantial part of Gmail's entity recognition system to a software 2.0 implementation. So basically, and stripping out basically a large amount of, a large code base as a result of that. Now, this isn't just at the level of, complex functionality. We're removing, we're changing a procedural code and switching in, some kind of deep learning, network. I was also describing this in terms of moving up the abstraction ladder. And so, an example of that is doing something pretty sophisticated at the level of neural architecture search, basically as a service on Google's Cloud's managed ML platform, as an example, or a very, very complex recommender system, which, this is one example, NVIDIA's Merlin framework, which won the Rex's competition, and was run up for another year, but very complex a recommender system that can ultimately be implemented in a few dozen lines of code, as opposed to requiring, a great deal of engineering complexity, but also methodological sophistication otherwise. And maybe the last one is, just at the level of how we even think about training these models, like the idea that you can do very complex hyperparameter tuning at a level of abstraction where you don't have to really understand how these jobs are actually run. And this is true of, of model ensembles. It's true across a broad class of machine learning algorithms. And so, that's software 2.0. Software 3.0 is really at the level of prompt engineering, and this is really where we are now. And the specifics don't matter as much as the trend. And the trend is that we are very much in a place now where machine learning, doing machine learning is very much, a form of software engineering, one that can be practiced very end to end. And that has a lot of implications for how organizations should therefore, companies that are building vertically integrated decision platforms, but even companies that look a little bit more like enterprise, how they should be thinking about patterns of adoption. So I'll be quick here, which is to say that, at the same time, it's very much the case that the future is not evenly distributed. Like, you still have companies that are very advanced in a given sector and some that are lagging behind substantially. A lot of this is from a few years ago, and this is very much from a McKinsey survey that was run at one of its events. But the short of it is that the barriers to successful innovation, if you think about the biggest ones around mindset and culture, a lot of the things that I've been speaking to are maybe barriers of adoption that are a little bit more on the periphery here, as opposed to the things that are very much in the center. And so, I will, maybe it's worth belaboring this point, those things at the center here, at the level of culture, mindset, have not changed at all. So if I try to convince you of a few things, it's one, that building AI is software engineering work. Two, it has also never been the case that infrastructure, platform tooling, and for that matter, change management at the level of rethinking how work is done, think at the level of workflows, think at the level of processes, is incredibly important, which means that it very much requires, for many organizations, a very collaborative effort across a range of different functions. Maybe the last, a point worth making is that, and people can look this up, like there's the neats versus scruffies debate, which has been raging in the world of, let's say, empirical modeling beyond even machine learning for the last 40 years or so. And we are very much in a world now, in the last, let's say, 15 years, where the advantage is with the neats. And the point about that is that we're in a place where, the same models work everywhere, where the amount of domain specificity is relatively low. And, that also means that we're in a world which is very empirical, where theory doesn't matter very much, all of which, puts us in a place where organizations, in order to be able to know what works or what will work, need to need to experiment, need to run controlled experiments, and need to build a muscle that allows them to do that at some scale. And maybe the last thing is that even in a world where we have, in a world where you're leveraging, pre-trained models much more, where you've moved up the abstraction ladder, one thing that hasn't changed, or maybe one thing that's even more important, is the importance of feedback. And that's really data labels. So yes, you've maybe offset data requirements generally by moving up the abstraction ladder, by moving to one of these pre-trained architectures, but at the same time, feedback matters. I've said some of these things before, which is at the level of leadership, I think it's incredibly important for organizations to know what they're setting out to do in building something. So, to have a clear purpose, to build a culture of, continuous learning, to ensure that, they are getting feedback on what experiments are successful and not. Make the point here that, failure is also, a negative result is still a result. And, getting the benefit of this really hinges on really rethinking how work is done. And that's true everywhere across every application. So maybe the final upshot before I take a couple of questions. The frontier of possible continues to move fast. It's also never been a better time to build. So, they're irrespective of your specific, your organization's composition, the kinds of technical profiles that you happen to have, by some pattern, it's never been easier to build than now. And the last point is, change, and a lot of adoption of AI hinges on change, requires leadership. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much. Do we have any questions either online or in the room? We have straight away. We have a roving mic. So where are our roving mics? So people online particularly can hear your question as well. And if you could start by, when the mic comes to you, introducing who you are and where you're from, that would be great. Thank you.
So just now, according to this, AI is creating so much trillion value across industries. I can't see my sector on it. I just wonder where its position is the creative industry.
Creative industries?
Yes.
Oh, so that I'm sure, if only at the level of some of the things that are happening right now with, on top of LLMs and, being able to move to multimodal models that from a prompt will generate video. I would have thought that, creative industries would be one of those places where if a lot of the change hasn't happened, we are on the cusp of a pretty big revolution of how we think about generating creative content, right? Both at the level of things that are in print, but also things that are, making, into images, into art, into screenplays. There's a number of startups that I know personally that are working on, from prompt engineering to long screenplay domain.
Well, at the moment, most of the creative industry organizations, businesses I know, they are really scared. It's the opposite, because they are scared that they will lose their jobs, like with, what's the name, Midnight or something?
Yeah, we're having these conversations where the Hollywood writers are on strike right now, right? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, it's obviously, if
just
it's
a
not on the
matter
list, I
of
think that's a
time.
really good opportunity for the BridgeAI program. Just because we're very tight on time, could I request that, so I can see a gentleman with his hand up here, so could I ask, we can try and get in a quick other question.
Thanks very much. What a great presentation. Have you been looking at Bayesian methods to look at these many parametered optimization problems? Mike Handley, Polychord Limited.
Oh, great. Yeah, we can have a long conversation about that. So I said, as much as we're approximating physics, let's say, at Physics X, the optimization that you do on top of that hinges on a number of things that you can do, including Bayesian methods. Yeah.
Fantastic. We might have time for one quick question if there's any other questions in the room. Oh, This is very convenient, or you question people sitting together for us.
Hello, I'm David Sharp. I've just escaped from Ocado.
Okay.
I wanted you to tell us a bit more about how we're going to be writing software without software engineers. A bit more. You're basically saying that there's no need anymore. Don't worry, the code will just get written. To tell us a bit more about that.
So, I mean, maybe two things. Like, one, at the level of how ML itself is implemented, we're in a place where you don't need, you don't need as many deep data scientists, certainly. So, like, the level of abstraction at which that code is being written is one where people don't have to understand like details or even build these models from scratch as well. In the same way that for any neural network model, as an example, you wouldn't build your own back propagation routine. You have that for free out of PyTorch, and no one builds in PyTorch. Actually, very few organizations, I should say, build in PyTorch. A lot of them are operating at higher levels of abstraction through whether it's in Keras and PyTorch Lightning and higher level frameworks on top of that. Right. So the point that I was making about Software 2.0 is that both at the level of the core models themselves, you don't need the same, let's say, depth of data scientists and people who have specific expertise in certain categories of model, which was completely unscalable a few years ago for many organizations that had to engage in a number of different methods. The other one is that a lot of the ancillary tooling supporting a machine learning system, whether it's at the level of how you train your models, so I mentioned hyperparameter tuning, but also how you monitor these models, how you manage experiments, a lot of these things, how you incorporate labels into a retraining pipeline. Companies have had to build infrastructure to do those things, and that infrastructure exists today as hardened tooling and as integration points. So that's another sense in which teams, you can have fewer developers operating end-to-end at higher levels of abstraction, but we are absolutely in a place where even some of the core software engineering is being done by people who aren't software engineers. And so I'll plug one company here, like Fixie AI as an example. You should watch Matt Welsh's talk on the end of programming. He's a friend of a fantastic software engineer, was at Google for a long time, but at Fixie, like some of the things that they're doing is very specifically software engineering via prompt engineering.
Fantastic. So we've all got something we can watch on our commute homes. Thank you so much. Will you be staying around if people want? So if you have more questions, unfortunately we didn't have a huge amount of time, but you can hopefully try and find Giacomo in the networking break.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So obviously we have a bit of a mixed crowd of adopters and developers. So if any of that was a bit like, I don't know what we were talking about, the next session is for you, because that's going to be actually how you engage with the program and how, if you need, if you're looking to adopt AI and you don't know how, this is how we're going to explain where you might be able to get support and help. So I'm going to invite all the panelists up to stage with some introductions. We'll hear shortly from each panel or each partner about their interventions in the programme, and then we'll be followed by a Q&A. So you'll be able to get questions about the programme and any questions that you have. So again, online, please do submit them into the chat, and we have someone in the room who can ask them on your behalf, or we'll have the roving mic again. So firstly, I'd like to invite to the stage Claire Morris from Innovate UK. She's our innovation lead for BridgeAI. Claire has a background in RF signal and image processing with a degree and PhD in physics from the University of Nottingham, followed by a Mansfield Research Fellowship at the Sir Peter Mansfield Imaging Centre. Next, I'd like to welcome Phil Williams, who is Head of Complex Systems at Innovate UK KTN, where he leads a team of sector experts and scientists supporting the space, geospatial, security and defence industries, the enabling domains of robotics, autonomous systems and artificial intelligence, and the underpinning scientific discipline of industrial mathematics. He has over 15 years of R&D and project management experience, having worked in the space, telecoms, automotive and public sectors, and has master's degrees in satellite engineering and intelligent systems. Next, we have Katie Ho from the Digital Catapult, who's Head of Innovation Practice for Ecosystem Building at Digital Catapult, leads the team responsible for innovation strategy and delivery for mission-driven scaling programs across technology and application areas to build ecosystem capacity and collaboration, including AI, quantum, cyber, future, telecoms, and digital twins, to name a few. So, I mean, that's quite an impressive remit there. Next, we have Nico Gurnian from Alan Turing Institute. So Nico is responsible for the team that develops and manages corporate partnerships with user organisations with a view to generate new collaborative opportunities and support the delivery of economic and societal impact of data science and AI research carried out at the Turing. Nico originally joined from EPSRC, the Engineering and Physical Research Council, which is part of UKRI, and his own background is materials chemistry with a PhD and postdoctoral work focused on the design of novel polymetric materials for sensor and actuator applications. And finally, last but not least, we have Duncan Syme, who is Head of Business Development from STFC Hartree Centre. So Duncan's primary role is to lead the business development team to foster and convert a pipeline of relevant industry-led projects that will deliver smarter innovation and economic growth. Before he joined the Hartree, Duncan enjoyed a successful career in business development roles in both the private sector and higher education sector. So I'm going to hand over to Claire, who's going to begin with Innovate UK's remit. We'll have a short presentation from each partner and then the Q&A. So get your thinking caps on of what you'd like to ask them.
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Really nice to be here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Innovate UK contribution to the BridgeAI programme. We've had a really nice introduction from both Will and Giacomo that lead nicely into this. So as Will alluded to, we're a national adoption and diffusion programme. So we're really looking to stimulate adoption of AI across SMEs that might be reticent to take up AI. And when we've looked across what those adoption barriers are, you can see that we've got quite a diverse set of problems. And so we've had to build a really diverse, wide-ranging programme to address this. And we're not doing it alone, so you'll hear from some of the partner contributions as we go on through the session. But just going through some of these adoption barriers and what we're doing to address these, you can see there's often a supply and demand imbalance. So what we're trying to do here is put in place innovation networks. So bringing those developer and adopter cohorts together so that they can understand both the problem and the solution space better to create those business opportunities in our key sectors of interest. There are cost barriers to adoption, and that's where Innovate plays a really key role here. So we've got a number of R&D grant funding opportunities, and we're looking here to focus on both adopters, end users, to articulate what those key business challenges are and how AI might be used to address them. And we also have sector-focused competitions where we're bringing together academia and adopters in those key sectors to co-create solutions across the AI space. We've got a number of global activities. So here we're looking at knowledge transfer between developers and adopters across the globe and looking to increase market footprint for UK SME businesses. We've got a number of investor partnerships, and this is for businesses who are at the point where they're looking for significant investment, and they can bring their ideas to our team, be introduced to our investor cohort, and secure that aligned funding to really drive innovation and business growth. The next piece, which is really key at the moment, there's a lot all over the news about ethics, responsibility, and we're addressing that with a competition that's currently open. We've got projects started right now looking at accelerating trustworthy AI. So here we've got a focus on how do we make these algorithms transparent? How can we be sure that the decisions being made are representative of our consumer base and that they're not significantly biased? And how do we put our trust in decision making? So we've got traceability of decision making through that process. So that's ongoing at the moment. And the piece that's been really nicely kind of brought up by Giacomo is this wider skills gap, essentially, across the national space, where SMEs may have an uncertainty in terms of their return on investment in adopting AI, and also a lack of access to significantly skilled developers to help them put that into place. And so we've got a number of partner contributions that are addressing this that you'll hear about. And as Innovate UK, we're putting a number of upskilling programmes in place to try and address this. So we've got a national skills hub that will be standing up at the front end of next FY, and that will be a curation of any national training providers for AI and ML, and also for the business development side. So looking at change management, AI and data readiness assessments to help companies understand where they are in that digital transformation process and what those gaps are and how to address those, how best to address those. We've got a data and AI readiness skills and leadership course. And this is really ensuring that those senior decision makers feel empowered to understand the risks and opportunities associated with implementing AI in their business. And we've also got a series of innovation labs. So here the idea is we have a workshop type environment where we bring together adopters and developers to co-create solutions that address those specific business challenges in our sectors of interest. Looking at timelines for this, so we've got our launch event today, which is great. Key dates, we've got an adopter-focused competition, which is currently open, looking at short-term feasibility projects for adopters looking to assess how well AI might contribute in terms of growing their business productivity, and that closes on the 24th of May. And then going forward, we've got the innovation labs that I talked about, and the idea is that here people can co-create AI solutions and projects with academic cohorts and pull those ideas through to our sector collaborative research and development competition, which opens in September. And we've got another round of those feasibility studies for AI solutions starting in March next year. Alongside all of this, we've got the activities supported by the partners and, as I said, the AI Skills Hub that will be running at the front end of next year. So the current open competition, and I'd encourage you all to have a look and do get involved at the links at the bottom for applications. So this is up to 50k for a short-term 4 to 6 month project for collaborative innovation projects. And this is adopter focused, so we're looking at adopters as the lead applicant, demonstrating how they can address business challenges to drive an increase in productivity. And the second larger competition, which opens in September, has 2 strands. So we have a smaller strand looking at up to 100k for single SMEs. And the second strand is a larger pot of money, so up to 1.2 million for collaborative consortia over a longer term project, so 12-month project. The second strand, you'll need to have an academic partner alongside in the application to demonstrate that research commercialisation and pull through of academic research. And the links are there on the bottom. So that's it from me. Thank you, unless anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Claire. So I'm going to just take you through quite quickly a little bit about who we are in KTN and what it is we can do in order to support you through your the BridgeAI program. So firstly, about us. Innovate UK KTN is, in a simplistic way, we are the networking arm to Innovate UK. So where Innovate UK funds, we connect. We exist to help you find partners that will help to accelerate your ideas. And we are located right across the UK. So there's about 250 of us. And so pretty much there's going to be someone from KTN close to where you are that you can talk to. And we cover everything pretty much from stuff at the bottom of the ocean to stuff into space. And that, of course, covers agri, construction, the creative industries, transport, and, yes, definitely a place for AI. And certainly what we've been seeing over the last few years is that is now encompassing pretty much everything we do. It started off in very small silos, but certainly very much a part of pretty much everything that we do. To connect people, we need a network. Our network is similarly broad and diverse. And this extensive network not only helps us to make those targeted introductions, it also gives us significant amounts of innovation insights. And rather crucially, the ability to convene. And today is a good example of that. So the BridgeAI Innovation Network. At the heart of this network sits you, right? The people here today, the people that are online, the people that have already been helping us to scope, but crucially, the people that don't yet know about this program. Being part of this network will enable you to access and influence, crucially, there is a potential to influence the support that you will get for your own AI adoption journey. So that could be funding, it could be training, it could be compute or getting access to AI expertise, the latest research, etc. And brilliant news, the barrier for entry into this network is fantastically low, right? All you really need to do, or what you could do, for example, is go to bridgeai.net, take a look at our portal that's being, that we're developing at the moment, and sign up. It's pretty much all you really need to do. Then there comes the engagement part, right? And that really helps us. So you can engage through some simple things, signing up, and maybe look at some of the interventions that we've got on that portal and sign up for those. Or you could speak to us. So one of the tools that we have on offer as KTN is that we are approachable, right? You can talk to us. We have experts right across these different domains and sectors. Now I'm going to do something, I know that we've got a load of KTN people here today, and I'm going to put them on the spot, and I want them all to stand up. Now I know, there we go, right? KTN people, take a look around the room. These are people that you can talk to today that will help you to navigate BridgeAI. Thank you. Okay, so we really want to talk to you to help you through this program. It could be an introduction, or it could be something more structured, right? The sorts of structured things that we can do, Ignite Labs. This is a 6-week program. It will help you navigate the AI space. It will get you introduced to organizations that support AI implementation. You can learn from experts. You can do site visits, panels, etc., etc. We are running about 3 of these Ignite Labs every year. And Lily is here today. If you're interested, we've got one starting soon. Please do speak to her. We have knowledge transfer partnerships. These are tried and tested grant-funded program. Over 12,000 organizations have already been helped to improve their competitiveness, productivity. KTPs work really well when the business has a very well-defined innovation challenge with a very strong financial justification. But the knowledge and expertise doesn't exist in the company, consultancies won't work, and there's no obvious route for recruitment. And this 3-way collaboration between a business, academia, and a graduate has done in the past and will do help you to succeed. Finally, we have Innovation Exchange, and this is for when you are a business willing and able to go into a B2B relationship. So you've got a well-defined problem, you want to go into a B2B relationship, but you don't necessarily know who to speak to or know how to find them. And that's where we step in. It's another process or a program that we have that enables you to take your challenge, translate it into something that is accessible for our entire network. Now that can be anonymously if you want, but what we know is that there are going to be people out there that have probably solved, as we were hearing today, solved the problem that you've got. Now we do all that brokerage. we help that to work, and we help you create, we take the pain out of creating that business collaboration. So, please do come and speak to us. Visit bridgeai.net, sign up, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Phil. It's really good to be here today. So I'm Katie. I'm the Head of Innovation Practice at Digital Catapult, and we're really pleased to be a delivery partner for BridgeAI. So I'm just going to take 1 minute to tell you a bit about Digital Catapult in case you haven't worked with us before, and then I'm going to go through some of the training and modules that we'll be delivering as part of BridgeAI as well. So, for those of you who don't know Digital Catapult, we are one of the catapults set up by government a number of years ago. We're part government funded, but we are independent and non-for-profit organisation. Our mission is really to drive the acceleration of adoption of advanced digital technologies and eventually driving growth in the UK economy. Whereas the other catapults are looking at specific industry verticals, Digital Catapults look at the potential of digital technologies across several sectors. And we're really here to break down barriers, lower the barrier to adoption, and also de-risk innovation and collaboration between industry and developers. So we are really at the heart of the ecosystem where we work with government and public sector. We work with startups and scale-ups very closely. It's one of our largest communities. We work with corporates and industry to make sure that the technology solutions that we are helping to develop are actually addressing real industry challenges. And we work with investors to increase investor confidence in investing in deep tech solutions, and also in working with academia and the Catapult network to facilitate knowledge transfer as well. So we have a number of testbed facilities that we build across the country, including some of our 5G testbeds, immersive labs, and virtual production studios. And what we do is we run innovation and acceleration programs on top of these facilities to open access for new innovators to come and develop products further, hone in their go-to-market strategies, and raise investment. We also work with R&D projects so that we can push forward the art of possible. So this is just a diagram to show you the remit of Digital Catapult. We work with different technology areas, but what we're really interested in is how these different technologies combine into different tech stacks to converge into real-world mission-driven application areas. For example, open and interoperable digital infrastructure. So we're looking at new business models that can be enabled through interoperability. We're looking at building digital, sustainable, and resilient supply chains. So looking at provenance and trust of data and how we allow different supply chains to collaborate within a network. And finally, virtualization and cyber-physical systems. So all the buzzwords that you would have heard around digital twins, metaverse, falls into this category. And one of the mission of Digital Catapult is actually to cut through the hype to make sure that we develop high-impact, real-world industry adoption. So within BridgeAI, we are actually bringing together some of our streams of work in our AI program, including looking at advanced AI R&D, real-world AI deployment, also very importantly, responsible AI and AI ethics. So within the program, Digital Catapult will be looking to foster collaboration between the supply and demand side of AI and build a foundation for digital and data and responsible technology readiness. So specifically, we'll be working to connect businesses in the key target sectors that you heard from today with our AI experts and innovation experts. We'll be supporting responsible AI adoption through a few streams of training and modules that we've developed, and also providing you access to a network of investors as well, and also further insight into the fundraising process, especially in this space. So to look at our offerings as part of BridgeAI, we will be convening some expert working groups as part of BridgeAI. They will play a critical role in really convening and aligning the developer community with industry players in the sectors. This is to make sure that we have a two-way exchange of knowledge and insight. We're bringing in real-world industry insights, making sure that we address critical challenges in different sectors, but also helping to disseminate learnings through BridgeAI. We will be running business and technology acceleration programs. So the first one will be actually launching this summer. And also, we will be looking to provide startups and scale-ups with, again, access to our AI expertise and innovation expertise to grow your business. We have also developed some training and targeted workshops around digitalization journey, around AI industry collaboration, community and investor engagement, and more importantly, this program is all about making resources and support accessible. So to that end, we have developed resources and toolkits that you're able to leverage throughout your participation in BridgeAI. So these will include looking at your digital data maturity and readiness, your data strategy, governance, looking at risk to data, how would you communicate those risks to your partners, and data ethics training and different toolkits as well. So this will all become available to participants of BridgeAI, and we'll be running some of these underpinning training modules for companies and projects that are also successful in the funding process that Sarah mentioned. So that's it from me. We also have a team present today at Digital Catapult. I don't think I'll make them stand up as Phil did, but we have teams across technology, innovation, policy, and AI ethics here today. So please do speak to us, and I look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Duncan Syme from the Hartree Centre. I think it's a brilliant turnout today. I'm really, really impressed. And I just want to reiterate what Phil and Katie have said. I think the most important takeaway from today is come and talk to us. If you've any thoughts, any ideas, just come and talk to us. That's the most important thing. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes just to explain what the Hartree Centre is and what our participation in the BridgeAI programme is. So the Hartree Centre is part of Science and Technology Facilities Council, which in itself is part of UKRI. But our remit, and our only remit, is to work with UK industry to accelerate the adoption of advanced computing, data, and really importantly, artificial intelligence, to solve industrial challenges using these technologies. We do that in a number of ways. So we work collaboratively with our customers, with our partners. We offer access to our supercomputing facilities, be that CPU or GPU based facilities. So we have both. GPU, as we've heard earlier on, is particularly important for the artificial intelligence area. We also develop a number of digital assets which can be implemented to solve these challenges. And importantly, I think in the BridgeAI programme, we have a really comprehensive training and upskilling programme. So we heard earlier on about some of the uses of artificial intelligence in industry. And these are our capabilities. So these are the areas that we work in. So modelling and simulation, we heard before about emulation. So we actually work on modelling and simulation, emulating simulations in nuclear fusion and other sectors. So that's really, as we heard before, a really important area for artificial intelligence. But we also look at automated inspection using machine learning and deep learning technologies, natural language processing, and also increasing productivity and maintenance using big data analytics. And again, like was mentioned before by Katie, we're also in the area of working on and developing digital twin technologies. So, what do we bring into BridgeAI? I think three main things. So, access to our capabilities, our experts, access to our training and skills program, and also access to our advanced computing facilities. So, access to our experts. So you can access it through innovation vouchers, and then we'll look to support you in understanding and helping you move forward in your challenges to solve your challenges using artificial intelligence. Training and skills, where we help organisations to understand how these technologies can impact on their businesses, and access to the actual computers as well, to the computers we have as well. So that could be helped to use to train your models. Okay, so that's it from me. I believe I'm handing over to Nico.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Sarah, for the kind introduction earlier. See how this works. So I represent the Alan Turing Institute. The Alan Turing Institute is the national institute, UK Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. We were founded in 2015, And our mission is really about making great leaps in terms of data science and artificial intelligence research, and also kind of applications, and try to do that in a responsible way. And the word responsible is very important in the context of the discussion today. So we've got a number of goals which are highlighted on the slides. So world-class research and applications across really kind of very big kind of challenge mission-led areas across healthcare, security, environment and sustainability, and then digital society and policy. We have a big focus on skills, and I'll come back to that. Our role in terms of the BridgeAI is really around kind of upskilling and building on some of the things Duncan has already mentioned. And then finally, we're there to drive and inform kind of public conversations. And you heard from Giacomo earlier, there's obviously a lot of perhaps misgivings in the media at times around AI, and I think we're really there at a nationwide to kind of break through some of the noise and some of those misgivings. In terms of our role in BridgeAI, it's really kind of three things. So because our focus is data science and AI research, we're able to bring independent scientific advice into the program, and that can be in terms of getting under the bonnet of potential kind of solutions that are out there, but it's also, and more importantly, again, building on some of the things Giacomo was talking about, providing mentoring, and also it might be about sometimes convincing some of the leaders in terms of kind of benefits, but also understanding some of the challenges and pitfalls associated with AI implementations. We have a very big focus on skills and upskilling, and really it's about kind of connecting the UK kind of research community into the program. We're very fortunate. We have about 500 researchers at the Alan Turing Institute, but we're also connected into 38 UK universities, and we can really harness those capabilities to bring that into the program. We also have lots of partnership across industry, third sector, and government, and we can bring some of that to bear as well. And finally, we're very kind of lucky because we lead an initiative called the National kind of AI Standards in the UK, and I'll say a bit more about that in a second. And anybody with an interest in deploying AI responsibly needs to take an interest in standards and learn more about standards. We can bring some of that into the program as well. So in terms of the scientific advice, we're looking at bringing kind of different kind of components. I think certainly I was inspired by here some of the things that Giacomo brought to the discussion at the start. I think we're looking to do a lot of that as part of the program. Mentoring and bringing not just people who understand kind of AI research, but people who also understand about the kind of research software engineering, things around data wrangling, for example, and then providing that kind of advice layer for groups of organizations, groups of BridgeAI participants is going to be key, and we'll be developing that over the next few months. Upskilling, so kind of three different ways. Online training tools, we've been developing a lot of our own, and colleagues in STFC Hartree also have a lot of capabilities in that area. We also want to be able to provide advice and bespoke training in areas of common interest. What's kind of paradoxical about some of the things we heard earlier is it's a very kind of fast moving field. Some things are getting easier, some things are getting increasingly complex, and I think the Turing can help in providing training in some of those areas. And finally, for perhaps those more sophisticated adopters amongst people in this room and perhaps people who are joining online, we want to provide access to something called the Turing Way for data and AI practitioners who are more advanced and want to learn more around how you do data science in a kind of open and reproducible way. And finally, and I started to mention some of this, we're fortunate to be leading the UK AI Standards Hub in collaboration with the British Standard Institute and National Physical Lab. I think we'll hear later on from colleagues from the BSI. And we're providing, we're making some of those capabilities accessible to BridgeAI participants in terms of access to the online communities, bespoke delivery of workshops around AI standardization, and also in terms of kind of reviewing kind of the landscape and understanding what's out there. I'm not going to go through the slides, but just I think a short list of some of the benefits that we think are going to be there for BridgeAI organizations and participants. The things that I wanted to do is what colleagues did earlier, is I wanted to ask Turing Institute colleagues to stand up, because there's quite a few of us in the room today, not just me. So I can ask my Turing colleagues, don't hide, can you stand up? Here we go, just wave, here we go. Okay, so please come and talk to us during breaks if you want to know more about some of those offerings that kind of we're providing, and they will start appearing on the portal that Phil mentioned earlier. And I'll just close here and want to thank Innovate UK colleagues and all the colleagues in the other delivery partners as well, and really looking forward to making the most of the program and making it impactful. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go into a Q&A shortly. Katie, did you want to get your colleagues to stand up, given it's the trend?
Yeah,
and I don't know, Duncan, if you have any.
We could do.
So should we do STFC?
Would you like to stand up, guys?
So if you have STFC questions that we don't cover in the Q&A and you're in the room, please speak to them. And digital catapult, you might as well get involved as well, because otherwise it feels unfair. So there we go. Fantastic. Right, so we are now into Q&A. So if you've got questions online, make sure that you're submitting them, and I will be keeping my eye out for a hand there. Or questions in the room. Do we have any questions for the partners? So right at the back, I can see a hand straight up there. So we've got a mic coming to you. If you can say who you are, where you're from, but also if your question is for a specific member of the panel, please address it to them.
Yeah, it's John Denton at BT. I was glad to see the Turing Institute mention the standards at the end. I think my question's to all the panel, in the sense that we're talking about UK investment in building AI businesses. Where do we see the standards around technology being more about the UK building its own platforms and technologies, or where now, could it's such an international space, are we going to be just dictated by the technology companies building these building blocks that we have to build on top of? And I'm just wondering how we're going to manage that ownership as we go forward.
So maybe if I go to Nico first.
Yeah, I'll have a go, but other colleagues should feel free. I mean, if you're thinking about large language models and generative AI specifically, I think yesterday only was announced the launch of a task force at the UK level, and I think I'm not very close to the task force itself, but my understanding is that some of the risks that you've identified, some of the challenges, I think the task force will be addressing some of those things head on. Can you remind me of the second part of your question? Sorry, I forgot.
You're talking about standards.
Okay, so on the
standards in that sense, and I guess
yeah.
I'm talking about standards around the technology and the platforms we build, and how could this investment help protect BT? Not BT, British.
British BT as well.
British investment.
I mean, it's a shame my colleague Florian Osman, who leads the kind of standards hub activities for the Turing, isn't able to be here today. He's unwell. But I do know that there was a recent delegation going out to the US with colleagues from BSI and NPL and NIST, which is the perhaps the NPL/BSI equivalent in the US, is looking to kind of adopt a lot of the areas that the UK is trailblazing in that space. So I think certainly the US, on the government side at least, and the regulator side, is looking at what the UK has been doing and learning, and hopefully so. I think that's a good sign. Perhaps I can say less about the tech companies per se.
And I think, so through the Standards Hub, obviously, BSI, NPL, Turing are engaging internationally. I think specifically when we're talking about the programme, our role is to, firstly, allow businesses to engage with standards. So particularly from the SME community, it's often hard to engage with those standards, but also to explore within the sectors where there may be need for new standards. So keeping the UK at the forefront by being involved and progressing those standards. So I think the actual international piece probably comes through our engagement with partners like BSI, who are obviously doing that work anyway.
So not from a standards perspective, but from a technology perspective, we are in another programme Hartree is involved in. We are building out technology stacks, technology platforms. So it's not other countries. There's a lot of activity going on in the UK to do that as well.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So we've got a couple of hands. So there was one at the back. Oh, just there.
Hi, Adam Wilder from NATS. great presentations, really informative. Two questions really. One is there a primer kind of, just getting that basic terminology, really just understanding, because I've spent maybe a year looking at this and I still get confused about whether I should be using a neural net or and some of those when Jacob started talking about some of the computing languages, I thought I was quite tech, but I've never heard of half of them. So is there something that somewhere I can go and I can direct my colleagues to kind of just go and get their level of knowledge to a kind of basic level, really, so that you can then start engaging with this? That's kind of my first question. Then the second thing is, I guess we're in the UK. This is UKRI, and all of the institutes, I think, are UK based. My industry is very international, aviation, and we work a lot with international companies, international standards bodies. How is the UK just going this alone, or are we actually linking in with other work that's going on around the world in this space?
Thank you. So does anyone want to take the primer part of the question first? I think we'll deal with it in two parts.
Would you want to start?
Yeah, as part of the training offering, there is that introductory type level into what these technologies are, and so from a knowledge base for your colleagues, I think that would be a very good way to introduce them to the terminology and the technology, so they've got a basic understanding of what they are and the terms to use.
Yeah, and it's both in terms of kind of online training, kind of modules being made available, as well as perhaps bespoke training. Some things require more hand-holding, some you can actually learn online. I'd highly recommend, if you can grab my colleague Vera Mazza, who leads our kind of skills work stream for the Turing, very, very complementary to what colleagues in Hartree are doing. I mean, the idea of having kind of primer being developed and made available online and actually keeping up to date with all the changes that we're seeing at the moment, I think is going to be absolutely key. So I think that's a very, very good question.
Can I just add to what Duncan and Nico already mentioned? So in terms of priming kind of the knowledge base, there's kind of two aspects. One is obviously the technology aspect, and the other side is what sort of challenges could you solve with AI solutions, and where do you start, and how do you assess the feasibility or maturity in your organization to also explore different solutions as well. So as part of the program, that's the type of training we will also be going through. And actually one of the benefits of BridgeAI is to, as you can see, convening the ecosystem of different partners within the UK, first and foremost, so that there is a triaging process as well. So, within the same organization, you might have team members who are more suitable to train with Turing and looking at kind of going deeper into the practitioner level, and you might have colleagues that are looking at kind of it from a business and investment angle that might come to ourselves or KTN. So I think within the program, there's definitely different levels of resources that's available to you.
Yeah, so I think the key takeaway there on the primer is sign up, as Phil said, onto the portal so we can do that triaging and help you. When it comes to the international piece, BridgeAI is part of a bigger activity of AI ecosystem activity, as is Innovate UK. So Innovate UK works, and as do all the partners, internationally. So we're not, we appreciate business is an international endeavour, AI is an international endeavour, so we're not trying to go it alone, but we are trying to maintain the UK's position, push forward where we need to be pushing forward, but also working with international colleagues, particularly, standards is a very good example of where we need to be doing that. So there's a hand over here, I can see. Oh.
Good morning, Alistair Reisner from the Civil Engineering Contractors Association, so we're from construction, what I think we call a low adoption of AI sector, but I say high potential for adoption. However, my question probably builds on the last one, because in Jacobo's presentation earlier, we talked about culture and mindset being one of the barriers to adoption. I see that in our world. I don't think most of our guys are even thinking about this at the moment. So from a BridgeAI point of view, can you talk a little bit more about almost how we bring the horse to the water before we make them drink?
So I guess we've set up these innovation labs and sector workshops to get those initial discussions going. So, where could I be exploiting AI in my business, and to work through some of those initial business use case developments alongside the expertise of our partners here who've got a good understanding of that commercialisation opportunity. I don't know if people want to speak about their pieces.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. So in terms of exposing opportunities to different industries, I think firstly we need to understand some of the specific challenges that industries and sectors are facing. So I think in particular in construction and transport, I think regulation comes up a lot, and kind of that risk-averse mentality in different sectors. So I think for us is to be able to understand how do we make things simpler, how do we kind of start from high impact use case as well that you can see a quick win potentially, and it's through some of the funding opportunities as well that you can start exploring partnerships potentially with academia, with startups, to really start understanding, I suppose, innovation and digital transformation as a whole topic, and AI is a key building block to it. So I think that's a really, really good question. I think definitely something that we will look to address in the programme.
So we've got a question here, and then we'll go there. So we'll do these two next.
Thank you. Really great to have the opportunity to sit in the same room with so many inspirational people. Wei Yang, I'm CEO of Digital Task Force for Planning. We are innovation-led social enterprise aiming to unlock the full potential of spatial planning in a digital era. So what you talk about, I think, are fantastic, relates to what we want to do. Because spatial planning has been recognized by IPCC as one of the key mechanisms to relate to climate adaptation and need the fundamental transformative change. I think, same as the gentleman spoke earlier, I think spatial planning is one of the sectors need the fundamental change, but actually it's very much the current technology very much bypassing the current spatial planning practice. So my question is really about, from our research, we found many technology at the moment they are very fragmented. And to enable the systematic change, the methodological change, and what you can see, how you can, the program can support, and how the mindset change can be enabled in a much faster way, and then how you can help. Thank you.
Who wants to have a go at that?
So I guess that's part of this kind of supply and demand imbalance for our key sectors of interest, right? So it's getting our developer cohort, who may be very good in one financial sector, that's well-established techniques, that well-developed, but getting them to understand your specific problem sets and how the current techniques are fragmented and how you would actually like to see those implemented. And I think that's a real key part of the things that Phil and the rest of the folks here deliver, is that opportunity to get people in the same space so you can articulate what those issues are, so that developers have a really good understanding of where they need to be working actually to drive adoption in these sectors where there's high growth potential and new business opportunities. That would be my thoughts.
I think that's a really good point. The key to this is to understand what the challenge of that particular sector is, and for us to really understand it, and for the developers to understand it. And it's only through understanding that challenge and the pain points and the pinch points that you have is that we can say, well, this is how we would look to aid adoption within that area. But it's really understanding the challenge is the key to it.
To build on that, I think it has to start with a conversation, right? And I think for many companies, organisations, and bodies, it's that the problem starts with knowing who to start talking to, or even knowing who to trust. And I think as a group here, think of us as those independent, trusted advisors, right? Any of us would be really pleased to come and talk to any of you and listen about your innovation journeys, where you are, where you're hoping to get to. What are those barriers, right? Any of us can do that, and and we don't really have any particular own agendas. So in principle, we are trusted advisors. And I would just encourage you to, and anyone, just to reach out to anyone on the panel. We would love to come and speak to you. And that opens up the opportunity to explore and find, what those next steps are.
Thank you. So there was a question just here.
Hi, my name is Bergie. I'm CEO of One Fusion. So we're a startup based in Bristol, and we've been operating for 2 years. We're basically in the construction industry, and like there was a question there, the adoption in the UK is very, very low right now. And I don't know if that's to do with knowledge or just to do with the industry in itself. But what we've seen with our development of AI, especially in neural nets for the design stage and supply chain, is there's a big adoption craze in the Middle East. And the Middle East are looking for UK companies such as ours to look at AI models for their implementation of AI. So they've got Vision 2030, which is a very big vision, and their core technology areas are what UK can offer to them. So just in terms of the funding grants and everything like that, let's say we were to partner up with a consortium of universities in Saudi Arabia that have approached us, would that be approved with UK Innovate? And in terms of like we are intending to scale up in the UK, but we can only do that if we partner up with Saudi Arabia. So just wondering if there's that international thing that we can use in this.
So, I mean, I would say for each specific funding opportunity, it's worth checking the specific eligibility criteria of the competition. So that will advise you, what is possible in terms of partnering. I would just flag that part of the programme will be specifically around international activity. So we'll be running what we call our Global Business Innovation Programme. That pipeline of missions is yet to be confirmed, but if you sign up through the portal, you'll find out information about that. And that will be an opportunity to also expand collaboratively with different regions and different markets with specific sector focus. So there will be some specific international activity that we'll be running, but for the specific competitions, maybe come and have a chat with one, either myself, Claire, or Trias after, and we can explore that in a bit more detail. Okay. Are there any more questions? So we have a question here.
Thank you. That was really informative. I'm Sharon Matthew. I'm the founder of a Northern AI community called AI Tech North. And we also have innovation labs called AI Tech UK with a mission to collaborate with national partners. The question is, over the last 5 years, when we were operating as a community, we realized people had, and SMEs and startups, they had their own challenges. And one of them was around bringing more diversity and inclusivity and national level awareness of what's going on. Sometimes it's too late by the time they realize, oh, there was this competition. And how do we sort of bring more awareness? That's one question. And the other thing is, often we see that policies that are made or decisions that are made, sometimes it's very pro-innovation, sometimes pro-government or pro-corporate. So how do we bring more pro-people-centric sort of angle and balance to the decisions? So, yeah, that's my question.
You don't want to start that, or? Yeah. I mean, okay, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so the first question is around how do you bring more awareness to opportunities for companies across the UK. So I guess to echo what I mentioned before, one of the key benefits of this BridgeAI national program is that we're starting to coalesce some of the capabilities within the ecosystem. So we're able to, I think, funnel through, opportunities that not just come from the Innovate UK competitions, but from Cheering, from Hartree, from DC, from KTN, to build a cohesive community. And because the program is national, we do encourage companies from different backgrounds, different kind of regional presence to attend as well. And then, sorry, your second question was around the...
How do we make it more people-centric?
Human-centric, yeah. So this is something actually Digital Catapult is very passionate about, and within our acceleration framework, we do focus on both the responsible development and adoption of AI solutions as well. And part of it is also looking at human-centered design of AI solutions. So it's a topic that we do really want to focus on, and I agree it needs to come to the forefront.
I think across the programme, though, we're looking at this isn't just an innovation, developing tooling.
Yeah.
It's about developing human capabilities as well, so that as companies adopt AI, people can work alongside them, people can still have roles with this technology. So that that's a core part of the programme, across all the partners, and responsible, trusted AI is at the heart of that. So I think we've got a number of questions online. So I'm going to go to have those next, and then we'll try and come get a few more in the room.
Thank you, Sarah. We've got a couple of specific questions and a couple of more kind of broad questions. We'll go with one of the specific ones first. Can funds be used on compute platforms and software? And if yes, is there any limit to this within the funding?
So the funds can be used to access the compute platforms at Hartree. So yeah, there is a route to do that.
And again, just to reiterate Sarah's point for specific competition kind of scope and eligibility, I'd refer you back to those competition pages. It'll be documented there.
Thank you. This is a bit more of an open one. What should we do to maintain control on AI integrated systems currently and in the future so that any negative impact on humanity is minimised?
That's a big question.
So maybe slightly beyond the scope of the BridgeAI programme. However, does anyone fancy that?
I mean, I suppose it comes under our trustworthy and responsible AI piece, looking at the ethical implications, and partners have courses on understanding what the ethical implications are of adopting AI and how we manage risk and reduce bias. Doesn't answer the larger question, I'm afraid, but that's how I guess we're trying to address it across
But
the
I guess
programme.
it does
It's a key point.
speak to the role of government funding, is that we can direct focus and we can incentivise behaviours, and that is what we would hope to do with the programme, Nico.
And I think the focus on standards, certainly in terms of what the Turing can bring to the party with British Standards Institute and National Physical Laboratory as well, is I think AI governance piece. There's been a lot of work done in advising government, and a lot of their experience we can bring in at advising industry.
Thank you. One more from online. OpenAI is subject to a class action in the UK, and GDPR questions have been raised across Europe. Can the panel comment regarding use of open data models in submissions?
So I think in terms of submissions, I think, do they mean in terms of applying?
For funding, yes.
For funding. So, I mean, firstly, I think that the key thing I'd say is foundational models and, ChatGPT, it's one aspect of AI. Again, I guess it's kind of referring back to the specific competitions. There will be very specific eligibility criteria. There are no, as far as I'm aware, there are no limits. We haven't put limits on the type of AI, but obviously there will be questions that you have to answer to, demonstrate how you're using those technology, what it's going to do to accelerate trustworthy AI. So that will be part of the application process, which, obviously then gets assessed. So that's where we would catch that sort of information.
Thank you.
So we've got 5 minutes left for a few quick questions. So there's a lady with a white top there, so maybe if we go there and then...
Hi, Bethany Foster, Energy Systems Innovation Lead at the Strategic Innovation Fund. For those of you who are unaware, the Strategic Innovation Fund is a collaboration between Innovate UK and Ofgem, the regulatory body for the energy networks. Now, in the energy sector, I appreciate it's not one of the main sectors here today, but we're actually adopting AI in many different exciting use cases to meet our net zero alignment and net zero commitments. And there's been rapid uptake in the last 2 years of AI models in the energy sector, which we're helping to fund. Now, there's kind of two key things that we found in this process of uptaking AI models. One of them is the cybersecurity implications. Now, particularly in our sector, we work with critical national infrastructure. So we have to be very, very hot on the cybersecurity models and implementations that we put into our models. And we've found that the companies who've adopted these AI models with cybersecurity sort of regulations and methods in place from day dot have been able to scale up very rapidly without any sort of huge barriers. So I guess my question is BridgeAI offering support for say, sectors who haven't perhaps taken up a lot of AI, is there support for them to think about cybersecurity in their uptake of models? And do you have ways in which they can access that or learn about it if they haven't particularly implemented it? And there is a second thing, I don't know whether you want to answer.
Very quickly.
Okay. So one of the things that's been talked about in the energy sector is the environmental impact of the increased data processing needs for some of these AI models. In the energy sector, we're talking about billions and billions of data points that are being processed every single second of every day, and that's only going to increase. So I was just wondering if that's a conversation that's being had within BridgeAI as well. Sorry, that's quite a lot to unpack there.
Ask the question.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can probably try to answer the first part of your question. I mean, I think a lot of us in terms of organisations as delivery partners have got existing partnerships with some of the kind of key cyber organisations in the UK. I mean, the Turing has got a strategic partnership with GCHQ and the likes, and we've had a very big focus on not just kind of cyber security, but kind of privacy enabling technologies as well, in terms of how you can potentially look at areas around the kind of data sharing and some of the kind of risk that you have to take into considerations around that, particularly around the kind of privacy angles. So I think there's enough expertise that we can bring to bear, certainly just on the kind of online training and kind of bespoke training that we could bring into that. I mean, some of it might not be available immediately, but some of it certainly will come in time. And I think you're absolutely right. Your question is a very, very brings a very important dimension to this conversation.
And on the second bit, I think obviously there are some the current fashionable techniques, deep learning, are very energy hungry, particularly with the largest models. But I would say, firstly, there are multiple types of AI, and not every AI solution is going to be using that. So actually, there are trade-offs with the sectors where actually you may be saving energy by utilising AI. And then what's next? And I think beyond Bridge, UKRI invests a lot into different and novel AI techniques. So EPSRC have their data hub, so looking at actually how we do AI with small data, or so there are different things we're investing in as well, which will then obviously, if we can then start to transition to less data hungry and less energy intensive methods of AI, that will be obviously in the future.
So we've been doing a lot of work on the cost to compute as well. So it is something that we understand, and some of the AI tool and techniques that have been mentioned today actually reduce the cost of compute. So you can use those technologies to reduce that impact of compute time.
Fantastic. Right, I think that's probably all the questions we've got time for. So firstly, can we thank our panel? I hope the session was useful. If there were questions that we didn't get round to answering, everyone's here. You've seen all the people, so please stop us, ask us questions at lunch, and we'll endeavour to get you the answers that you need. That is the end of our morning agenda. So for everyone who's joined us online, firstly, thank you so much. There is an opportunity for you to now network with your fellow virtual delegates. You should have been sent information on Meeting Mojo. So please, do get involved, and I hope you find the session useful. For everyone in the room, it's now lunch, so we'll be shortly going out for lunch back into the networking space. However, before you go for lunch, have we got a slide with the agenda or the QR code? Basically, you need to know which session you want to go in straight after lunch, because we're going into the breakout rooms. So they are aligned to the different sectors. So once you've... this is very helpful. Thank you very much. So depending on which session, so we've got transport in Aldgate, agriculture in Fleet, construction in Walbrook, and creative industries back in here. So think about where you want to go. Make sure you know where you're going, and we'll see you after lunch, and have a great networking session and lunch.
Innovate UK uses independent assessors to ensure that the funding application assessment process is fair and transparent. Before an assessor can assess for us, Innovate UK will verify their expertise and skills. Once verified, they will become part of a pool of assessors drawn from both business and academia who are industry experts across all innovation areas. All assessors must sign confidentiality agreements, declare any conflicts of interest, and attend an assessor induction session. Only then can they undertake assessment work on behalf of Innovate UK. Applications that meet the competition eligibility criteria will be sent to a maximum of 5 assessors, who will independently assess the content of your application using a scoring matrix. Innovate UK are looking for novel solutions that address the challenges outlined in the competition brief. Our assessors will score each section of your application and provide written feedback based on their individual interpretation of your project idea. It is important that you include all the relevant information in your proposal, as the assessors will base their assessment on the information provided. Our assessors are unable to contact you if anything is unclear or missing from your application form, nor can they ask anyone else to review an application in their place or give another opinion of their assessment. Innovate UK and its assessors will handle your application with the strictest of confidence, and data protection rules will be adhered to at all times. We also ensure the anonymity of our assessors, and assessor names will not be disclosed within the feedback provided at the end of the assessment process. The competition brief and guidance for applicants provides helpful advice on how to complete and submit your application. We strongly encourage applicants to read these along with the competition scope and eligibility criteria before applying for funding. Innovate UK is committed to making the process as straightforward, fair and transparent as possible, ensuring that the very best applications make it through to the project stage. For further information and support, please visit www.innovateuk.ukri.org.